We are in week 2 of a series that we are calling Like Christ, where we want to unwrap the complexity of your spiritual growth and of following Jesus and to help you to live like Christ. So often, myself, my coworkers around here, other pastors on our team, coaches and leaders that you interact with in groups and serving teams get asked this question: how do I grow spiritually? Or maybe you've asked it like this: how do I grow in my faith? Or what does it mean to follow Jesus? Or maybe you've been following Jesus for a little while now, and you're asking the question, what do I do now? What's next? Well, according to Google Trends, the prevalence of the phrase spiritual growth as a search term has doubled in Indiana over the last 12 months. What this means is that people are more often asking this as a question. They are searching for the answers. It means that you are asking about your own spiritual growth, your own faith journey more than you have been. And maybe it's because of the season of life that you find yourself in. It could like my life, which is you've got kids asking more and more questions about the big things in life. Or maybe it's because you're walking down the path of what it looks like to be an empty nester, and you're wondering, what now? Or maybe it's simply because you desire to experience more than the rote, the mundane, the rut of wake up, go to work, eat dinner, go to sleep, rinse, repeat, that we are all experiencing in some fashion, yes? What I do know is that no matter what your answer for asking, how do I grow spiritually, I believe that we can help you. Here at Suncrest, we would call the things that can help you grow in your faith, the things that would help you to live like Christ, the 4 C's. It's 4 words that start with the letter C. I know, it's probably a shocker. And all of them are practices that if you were to actually put them into your life and actually practice them, they would to help you to grow spiritually, and they would help you to live like Christ. And they are: connect in life-changing relationships, connect. Cultivate a trust relationship with God, cultivate. Contribute by serving, contribute. And care about lost people, care. And this week specifically, we are going to talk about how you can cultivate a trust relationship with God, which basically means that in the next little while, I am about to solve all of your trust issues. Are you ready? I am lying to you. Any person who stands on this stage and says that is lying to you, okay? But in a desire for transparency, I want to give you the big idea for the day right up front. That way you don't miss it. That way we can move on and you can keep this in your brain as we keep going. If you want to cultivate a trust relationship with God, you have to find what's uncomfortable but right, and then do it with all of your might. Find the things in your world that you know are the right thing to do and are maybe hard, and do them. The only way that you will grow in your trust is by putting yourself in situations where you have to trust God. It is mildly simple, but that does not make it easy. What I am going to do, though, over the next little while is I'm going to tell you about a man who was one of the earliest followers of Jesus, and his name is Peter. And realistically, he is like you and he is like me. Maybe if you see yourself in Peter, it will give you a little bit of hope that you too can grow in your trust, that you can make different decisions that will help grow your trust. You see, Peter was a good old boy. He was a fisherman, which I don't know if you've met people who fish, but they're a breed of their own. And he did this for a living. And then Jesus comes to him and he says, hey, I want you to apprentice with me now. No more fishing fish. I'm going to make you a fisher of men, which sounds super weird, but it really got him on the hook. He's oftentimes described as passionate, as impulsive, bold, known for his deep devotion to Jesus. But at times, Peter would show some of the most painful moments of doubt, of fear, of insecurity. See, Peter's like you. Peter's like me. He knows what he likes, he knows what he thinks, he knows what he believes, and then he goes for it, and then he gets scared, and then he doubts. And sometimes he's able to push through it, and sometimes he just goes off the deep end, right? And maybe that sounds like you. Maybe that sounds like today. I know that sounds like me sometimes. You see, I am going to confess something to all of you. I didn't really know if I wanted to grow up. Not in the Peter Pan sense of growing up, like I want to be a little boy forever. No, I didn't know if I wanted to get married. And I didn't know if I really wanted kids. I didn't know if I wanted to settle down. Commitment was honestly terrifying to me. My life was a mixture of chaos and not great choices for a while, and I had all kinds of doubts and fears and insecurities and worries, and oftentimes it would feel overwhelming, and I honestly struggled with who and what I trusted, including myself. It sounded a lot like what happens when, not if, when I screw all of this up, there are consequences I am not willing to pay. I don't know what I'm doing. And like everyone says, like, oh, nobody knows what they're doing. But like I really felt like I didn't know what I was doing. What if my kid doesn't like me? What if I don't like them? And along the way, I have had family, I have had friends, I have my wife, Jess, who is the voice of reason in almost all of my life. And yes, I have had God as models of trustworthiness. When I finally came around to the idea of getting married and then I got scared, everyone in my life was willing to come alongside of me and say, I know that it's scary, but I'll be with you. And you know what? My family, my friends, Jess, God have been with me every step of the way. And when I finally came around to the idea of having kids and I got really scared, Jess would sit me down and she'd be like, I know it's scary. I know it's scary. But I'll be with you every step of the way. And you know what? She left me alone with them the other day. But she came back. You see, I want to illustrate that I, like Peter, and maybe just like you, have both trust and doubt within me. And maybe your story of trust and doubt looks like when you took the leap of faith to get married and the honeymoon phase is long gone and it's actually kind of hard to live with him. And maybe you put your money into something, a home, a business, a person, and the return on investment is not at all what you thought it would be. And it's actually starting to have a stranglehold on you. Maybe it's deeper, it's longer. It's trauma from a parent, a guardian, a sibling who you really did think that you could trust and you were wrong. Whatever your story might look like of trust and doubt, what I know, and I know that you probably know this too, is that trust and doubt, they go hand in hand. How do I know this? And how do I know that you probably know this? Because the question of can you actually say that you trust something if you can predict exactly every outcome? Can you trust something if you can predict the way that things are going to go? The answer is no. That's control. That's you in charge. There's no trust involved because you get to decide everything. It wouldn't be trust. It actually can't be trust. And for many of us, we actually try to pattern our lives in a way to not have to trust because it's safer, because it's easier, because it doesn't cost as much, but it is so limiting. It's limiting of you. It's limiting of the other people around you and in your life. And most importantly, it is limiting to what God can do in you, which is why we are talking this week about cultivating a trust relationship with God. And so, in light of my life, in light of your life, we're going to pick up Peter's story shortly after some big things have happened. See, Jesus had just fed 5,000 people with the equivalent of a $5 biggie bag from Wendy's. He then sends his earliest followers, the 12 disciples, away. They are at a lake, and he says, I need you to get across the lake. So they get on a boat. He sends away this 5,000-person dinner party and says, go away. They leave. He then goes into the hills to find some rest and some solitude. Night falls, Jesus is praying, he's in the hills alone, the disciples are on a boat in the middle of a lake, and a storm comes from out of nowhere, and the story picks up here. Meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble far away from land, for a strong wind had risen, and they were fighting heavy waves. About 3 o'clock in the morning, really, really early, Jesus came toward them walking on the water. And when the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. And in their fear, they cried out, it's a ghost. There's a couple of things at play here for the original people who were hearing this story that Matthew wrote, and for the disciples who were experiencing this chaos. Matthew, the author of this particular story about Jesus and Peter, was writing to a Jewish audience while knowing the Roman culture that they were living within. You see, for the Romans, there was this huge emphasis and even worship of nature gods. Think Poseidon. Think water nymphs. Think nature is all powerful and we are all subservient to it. And Jewish fishermen, these Jewish fishermen, picture this. They are stuck in a boat in the middle of a storm and they see something that looks like probably one of what these gods would look like. They see King Triton and they all go, wait a second, hold on. No. This isn't supposed to be real. It's terrifying. It's chaos. It's horrifying. It's the last thing any of them wanted to see in a very stressful situation. And it's the last thing they expected. But the story goes on. But Jesus spoke to them at once. Do not be afraid. Take courage. I am here. And this is exactly where Peter, the person who you and I should identify with, shows up in the story. And then Peter called to him. And he says, Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you walking on the water. If it's really you, tell me. And we're going to pause right here. You see Peter, the you and me of this story, the guy who is described as passionate and impulsive, sees what he believes to be a ghost or a spirit or potentially a Roman god. And then he hears something that I think it sounds like Jesus. I don't know. And it says, it's me, Jesus. And then he immediately responds with, and I quote, bet. I cannot help but hear this as a person who's spoken before they've thought. You see, they're in a storm. They are stressed, right? Peter is probably in a combative mood. I know I would be. And if I were Peter, I might try to power up a little bit. I would try to take control of what I felt like I could. And I'm always like, no way, this is not happening. Not right now. We are not dealing with this. This is nope, no, not today. And I don't think he does this because they're sitting in the middle of this lake in a storm, and he's sitting there going, you know what? You know what would really grow my trust with God right now? Yeah, this is really stressful, but what would really? No, he is doing the thing that you and I both do when we are in moments of stress and of fear. He is literally trying to grab control. And in the moment that Jesus asked them to take courage, in the middle of him saying, do not be afraid, the first words out of Peter's mouth, which probably are the first words out of my mouth and maybe yours, are, why should I? Who are you to tell me what I'm supposed to do? Do you not see what's happening around us? Do you remember how I told you I was really scared of being a parent? Really scared. And I know what you're thinking, hey, everyone's scared, you're normal. No, I was really scared, fight or flight scared, in that every time Jess and I would talk about having kids, it would result in a fight, or I would flight in that I would try to change the conversation about anything. Once I finally came around to the idea of having kids, I can confess it's been one of the best things that's ever happened. And honestly, our firstborn, her name's Mila. She is amazing. She is the best thing I didn't know I needed in my life. She has changed everything about me, and she is also the thing that continually makes me wrestle with my doubt and my trust. My doubt in myself, in Jess, my wife, God, doubt and trust of my parenting, doubt and trust of being a good husband, doubt and trust of our home, my diet, the clothes that I wear. Yes, she's 4 and already judging me for that. Every little choice, I am mentally replaying the doubts and trusts that I have in my mind, and nothing puts what I trust in more on display than navigating correction and discipline. You see, Mila's really smart. And she is a master negotiator and deflector because God has a sense of humor. But when it's time for her to pick up her stuff at the end of the day, like this Lego castle, she creates an interesting dance. And maybe you've done it with your own children. It goes something like this. I ask her one time to pick up her stuff, and then I walk away. And then I come back a little while later, and it's not done. I then ask again, sterner, very direct. Now, I'm still smiling at this point. I walk away. A couple minutes go by and still nothing. Here's where my doubt creeps in. And what I do in hindsight looks a lot like what Peter does in the situation on the boat. I am stressed. I feel defensive inside. I feel out of control a little bit. And so I do what I can to seemingly gain control. I power up just a little bit. I'm stern. I'm very direct. I'm very short. I'm a little powered up. I'm your father. You need to listen to me now. It's not a yell, but she definitely knows that I'm upset with her. Now. And me, like Peter, who remember is on a boat, in a storm, powered up, grasping at control, are met personally in every feeling of doubt that you carry. Peter is met with his defiant rebuttal of, if it's really you, Jesus, tell me to get out of this boat and walk to you on the water. He is met with, yeah, come. He is met with a simple and a clear statement. It's me, Jesus. If you're going to throw it out there, Peter, I'm going to call it out. Go ahead. Trust me. It's me. And so Peter, who gets called out in this process, remembers who Jesus is every time Peter has stepped out to trust and followed him. He went over the side of the boat and walked on the water toward Jesus. But when he saw a strong wind and the waves, he was terrified. And he began to sink. "Save me, Lord," he shouted. Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. "You have so little faith," Jesus said. "Why do you doubt me?" And I think that in a conversation about cultivating a trust relationship with God, that is the question. Why do you doubt? Why do you not trust? Why do you not trust God? Maybe it's because you don't know where to start. And trusting some unknown cosmic spiritual force seems odd and confusing. Maybe it's because you've seen someone in your life who says that they do trust in God. And if their actions, their decisions, and their relationships are representative of the God that they trust, then it is a firm no thank you. I do not want to trust that God. Maybe it's because you have prayed and you have prayed and you have prayed and you have prayed and you have done your best to trust and to trust and to trust and to trust. And at the end of the day, your marriage still failed. Your son still died. Your addiction is still crippling. Nothing seems to be different. God, where are you? I think at the heart of this, at least for me, and maybe for you, is the tone with which I hear Jesus say the last two statements to Peter. We say this pretty regularly around here. If you want to know what God is like, then look at Jesus. And if Jesus is God, the representation of the best, the most relational, the archetype of fatherhood, the fullness of the Holy Spirit, and the fruit that comes from the transforming relationship that someone can have with God, then maybe I need to not put my own perception of tone into it, because if God shows us the fullness of who he is in Jesus, then done with you isn't an option. And annoyed you can't freaking figure it out isn't on the table, and powered up isn't a choice. You see, I think that for many of us, when we read this story, we don't like being in Peter's place, and instead we put ourselves into Jesus' place, because I can see how I'm in that place. And when I am in Jesus' place, after trying to get Peter to do something once, twice, now 3 times, I'm trying to get him to do the right things, which sometimes he gets right, but most of the time he is getting wrong. I have explained the consequences. I have said, now I hear Jesus saying this as he's pulling Peter's sorry butt up from below the waves. He's saying, why don't you you trust me? And my friends, if you have heard God speaking into your life and the way he sounds is frustrated, that you get scared in moments of having to trust him, then it is no wonder, absolutely no wonder, why you would not prioritize cultivating trust with God. If this is you, I need you to hear this. If God is love, and his earliest believers were convinced he is, I am convinced he is, and love is kind, is not rude or proud, it's not easily angered, it has no records of wrongs, then there is no way ever that God would speak that way to you or me. You see, back in our house, remember how I told you that Jess is the voice of reason in most of my life? She pulls me aside after my powered up statement. And she says, hey, remember that you're bigger than our 4-year-old? Remember that she's learning and that we're trying to help her learn? Be patient. Be kind. And I'm met with this choice to trust. And so I trust her. And so because I love my 4-year-old, I get on her level and I say, hey, kiddo, I am so sorry that I didn't speak kindly to you. I know that I asked you to do something, but it seems like right now you're distracted. What's going on? And in that moment, she wanted to show me this castle that she made earlier. She wanted my help in making it bigger. She wanted to show me that she was proud, and she wanted to share that with me, and I was missing it for the sake of placating my own pride and my own fears, my own insecurities. And so we were able to share in that pride together. We were able to make that castle bigger together, and then we put it away together. You see, I think that's what Jesus is trying to do with Peter. I don't think that he's powering up. I think that as he is pulling Peter up from the waves, he is pulling Peter up to his level. He is looking him in his eyes, and he is trying to do the thing that any loving person would do. And he is saying with a gentle voice, oh, you just have little faith. Why do you doubt me? Jesus, over and over again, helps us define where we are and understand where we could go. He is speaking the reality of Peter and his situation. You have little faith. It's why you sank. He follows it up then with a question that would change the trajectory of the size of his trust. He says, why did you doubt me? Which internally then gets felt as, what could you do to grow your trust in me? And it goes on, it says, when they climbed back in the boat, the wind stopped. Then the disciples, Peter included, worshiped him. You really are the Son of God, they exclaimed. You see, Peter's response after being met where he was and being invited to go somewhere else was to see God for who he truly is, which is trustworthy. Peter goes on to become a foundational part of the early church. He sets the tone for trust. Yes, he is going to screw this up multiple times in some very big ways, but Peter always comes back in his screw-ups to trust because of the invitation that Jesus recurringly gives him, that God invites him into. And so for all of us today, as we are trying to wrestle with what it would look like to cultivate trust, we are back to the original statement. And here's what I know will grow your trust. Find what's uncomfortable but right and do it with all of your might. Rhymes always help me remember things, so you're welcome. But really, find what's uncomfortable but right and do it with all of your might. This does not mean be perfect. This means to actually put yourself, like Peter, choosing to get out of the boat in places where you might fail. But you also would meet God in it and see him do amazing things as he pulls you up from below the waters. And there's probably something that immediately comes to your mind when I'm talking about this, right? But I would love to help categorize some of this. so that we can all understand the three ways that even tonight we can take a next step in this. The first is relationally. Relationally. Where is there a broken relationship in your life that you need to do your part in reconciling? And you'd have to trust God to do his part as well. The second is purposefully. It's in your purpose. Where is the brokenness around you that you uniquely could be a part of redeeming? And the third is spiritually. Where is the uncomfortable but right thing that you have been avoiding, the ways that you can learn to live like Christ that would actually help you to transform your life to live like him? And once you have identified that uncomfortable but right thing, do it. It's time to do it. And to do it with all of your might, because the truth of the matter is that if you walk out of here tonight and all that you feel is, yep, he's probably right, thanks. I'm just going to be honest, I don't want to be that type of person, and I don't think you do either. So if it is a relational thing, reach out. Text her, call him, set up a time to see each other face to face. Do your part. Own your mistakes. Don't try to control what the other person says or does, and give God space to do the things that God does. If it is a purposeful thing, step up. Give yourself, your time, your skills to making a difference. Step into your purpose in ways that would have you actually saying, okay, you know what, I'm going to do this, and I'm talented, and I can probably make it happen, but in order for something more to happen, I am going to have to see God at work in it. And if it's a spiritual thing, start now. Don't wait. If you need to start trusting God with your money, don't walk out of here without giving a gift. If it is baptism, defining yourself as someone who follows Jesus, not just being someone who browses or lurks in the background, stop by the next steps area on your way out. I will be there, and I would love to talk to you, because I think that putting your trust in God can change everything about you. If it's inviting a person who needs Jesus in their life because of some brokenness or a hard season that they're going through, reach out to them now. If it's maybe even prioritizing just being here more than once every 3 weeks, commit to a service right now. And actually, that friend that you need to invite, go ahead and tell them, I'm committing to coming on Thursday nights, and I want you to be there with me. You see, here's what I know is that growing in trust in this way, and in every decision that you're about to make with the decisions that you are currently making, there are going to be so many good reasons to not do it. So many valid reasons to not do it. But if you want to cultivate trust with God, you would prioritize the decision that you are making now, whether it's relational, whether it's in your purpose, or whether it's in your faith journey, and you would do it in spite of the things that are telling you that you can make a different choice. Because I know that when we cultivate trust and prioritize it, it changes everything. None of that makes this easy. That's why I said the word uncomfortable. But I want you to imagine with me for a moment. You can even close your eyes if you want. Imagine if every single one of us were to find the thing that is uncomfortable but right and then do it with all of our might. Imagine the relationships in our community that would be restored. Imagine the difference that would be made by all of us stepping up and stepping and giving of ourselves in ways that change everything around us. Imagine how your life and the lives around you would change. Imagine if Suncrest were to lead the pack in what it would look like to step into uncomfortable but right situations. Imagine the type of community that would be a part of, that you would be a part of. Wouldn't you want to be in that community? Wouldn't you want your family to be in that community? I know that I would want my kids to see that model. I know that I would want to be a model of that for other people, and I want to invite you into that type of trust as well.
Well, I really hope that was helpful for integrating faith with life. Listen, if you're in Northwest Indiana, I'd love to have you join us in person. Head over to suncrest.org and plan your visit.